welcome to you all. My name is Antje Fiete and I'm an associate editor of the Journal of Small Business Management. Today I have the great pleasure to talk with Professor Richard Chan about his paper titled Bending Light: How Cognitive Styles Influence the Pitch Evaluations and Performance Predictions of Crowdfunded Ventures. Richard is an associate professor at the College of Business at Stony Brook University in the United States. The paper has been published online November 2024 in the Journal of Small Business Management. It was co-authored together with his colleagues, Professor Annalena Parhankangas, Professor Dan Su, and Professor Piat O. Welcome, Richard.
Thanks so much. It's my pleasure to be here.
Thank you so much for taking the time to give a short interview. Richard, the first question I have for you is, where did the idea for the paper come from?
That's a great question. So it all started around 17 years ago. I was doing my PhD degree, pursuing my PhD degree, and I was participating in this business plan competition. I was helping out, and at the same time, also got very interested in the entrepreneurship research. So as I looked through the literature, I was trying to find what would be some interesting idea to pursue. And I noticed at that time, most people either spend a lot of time talking about the importance of quality signals and not a lot of time talking about how individual investors may utilize, pay attention or utilize those signals in their decisions. So I noticed there's a gap in the literature. So at that time, I decided to really investigate how the quality signal and non-quality and other signals will impact funding decision or investment decision. And most importantly, I want to see how investors' characteristic will also influence how these signals will be utilized and impact their decisions. So then I have a series of papers. And the original version of this paper actually is quite different from the final version. Initially, it was a fairly straightforward design with multiple different signals, and then trying to test how individual cognitive style may moderate such. Then through the reviewing process, then we realized perhaps that's very confusing, because at that time our initial version of the paper is really a 3x3 version. So three different types of signals and different type of cognitive style. Then we realized we actually create a lot of confusion. So we simplified, pick two most important one, and two different distinct signals and two distinct type of cognitive style. And then that's how the paper come into its form now.
Thank you, Richard. It's always fascinating to hear how a paper is changing over time and during the review process. So
right.
I also have a question about the most important theoretical contribution of that paper.
Sure. So what's interesting is that most studies tend to look at these two set of factors independently, right? Whether the impact of the cues versus the impact of individuals' cognitive style. So the key contribution of this theoretical contribution of this paper is really the interplay between entrepreneurial opportunities and individual investors. Oftentimes, I think that's probably the most important area that have been overlooked. And another theoretical contribution is that when people look at the impact of different types of signals, they often look at independently. Yet that's not actually how it happen in real life setting, right? When investors look at evaluate a business plan or a business pitch, oftentimes what will happen is that there are multiple set of information and non-informational cues. So in this paper, what we did was we picked one specific type of quality signal and the other type to be very costless signal, right? Less signal, costless informational, costless cue, where you can easily manipulate, doesn't involve much cost. So what we argue is that when both type of cues coexist, the quality signal will overpower the less costly signal. So that's what we found. So that by itself is also a nice contribution as well.
Thank you for sharing. So your study certainly will have some implications for practitioners. So could you maybe summarize what are the most important insights you have for policymakers or managers of firms?
Sure. So our study have two important practical implications for both entrepreneurs and for investors. For entrepreneurs, the study actually, let me talk about the impact for the practical implication for investors first. For investors, they really need to be aware of the fact that how they make decisions, their cognitive style, whether they are rational decision maker or whether they tend to rely on heuristic to make judgment, that have significant impact, meaning they will determine whether they will pay attention to what type of signal or what type of cues from the business pitch. And sometimes they could result in biased decisions. So the finding of my research actually provide them a way to de-bias their decisions, so make more rational decisions. So for entrepreneurs, that's also interesting. Our finding can be quite interesting as well, because for entrepreneur, they should understand that those cues, costly cue and less costly cue, they coexist. So how they arrange their pitch would be important. And furthermore, they should also be aware that individual investors have very different cognitive style. And what's more interesting is that according to a lot cognitive psychology research, that this cognitive style can actually be changed. For example, if somehow in the pitch you are able to express positive emotion or elicit positive emotions from the investors, you can actually make them more relaxed. As a result, they will tend to rely on heuristic thinking style. And on the other hand, so that's an example illustrating the implication for entrepreneurs.
That is really important to understand the practical implications. Richard, are there any final thoughts or comments you would like to share with us about the research?
No, I think I covered most of the items.
Fantastic. Thank you so much for taking the time, Richard. We really appreciate it. And I'm sure that everyone who's watching the video now would like to read the full paper. And this is available at the Taylor and Francis website of the Journal of Small Business Management. I very much enjoyed learning more about your important research. Thank you so much.
Thank you so much. It's my pleasure.